What is up, internet friends? It's been a little bit. I've been doing some traveling, I've been doing some recovering, and I've been doing a lot of thinking, which has hopefully given me the chance to provide a fresh perspective on what it's like to live with a serious cancer diagnosis. If you don't know me, my name is Mike Lynn, and I'm a stage 4 metastatic melanoma patient who has been in remission for a couple months. However, there's an expression in the cancer community, and that is, cancer doesn't end when treatment does. I know, we've got the coolest slogans, don't everyone rush to join the club all at once. Don't worry though, cancer has a way of taking care of it by selecting its own applicants. But really what that expression alludes to is the mental health portion of cancer, whether it is a stage 0 scare or a stage 4 incurable chronic cancer diagnosis. Basically, you're going to have to parse out a lot of the existential elements of cancer and learn to recalibrate your life a little bit. Given that this is the second time I've entered remission from a serious diagnosis, I thought I'd have a better handle on it, or at least know what to expect this time, but it's been a completely different experience than the first time, which also plays into another cancer expression. It's that no diagnosis is the same, and everyone's mileage will vary depending on that person and their situation. That's not even really an expression, I just say that a lot, but here we are. Something else I bring up all the time is why I make this content in the first place, and it's mostly for my mental health and to connect with other cancer patients and their loved ones, but it's also because when I was diagnosed for both the first time and this time most recently, I wanted a kind of real human representation of what it looks like to live with cancer and deal with the mental health pitfalls of it. I wanted to see the good outcomes, I wanted to see the bad outcomes, and there wasn't really a lot of cancer content surrounding young adults and their diagnoses, and so I'm committed to providing that for myself and for everyone else in the cancer community. And so when I talk about recalibrating your life, or I talk about the pitfalls of remission, I want to give concrete examples about what that really looks like. And so for the last couple months, I've been dealing with 3 things I can point to that might be the kind of hallmark of a weird portion of remission. I've been dealing with some anxiety about it, I've been dealing with some ambivalence surrounding it, and then I've been dealing with everything else in my life kind of being muted by comparison to a cancer diagnosis, which is something I've worked through in the past, but I have to find a new way to do it in the present. Before I dive right into the wonderful world of remission anxiety, holy shit, that's hard to say, I want to give a familiar preamble to some of this content. I always approach cancer and living with cancer with an optimistic outlook, but that is probably influenced by the fact that I think I've lived a fortunate life both prior to cancer and post-diagnosis. Each of my diagnoses has been pretty grim, stage 3C metastatic melanoma at 30, or recurrence, and stage 4 at age 35, but both times I've made it out with minor physical effects in the long term and minor mental health effects in the long term that I feel are workable. My thyroid doesn't work, I'm missing some lymph nodes, I've got some scars, I've pumped my body full of poison, and I've suffered considerable mental health ill effects at times, but I always want to act as though I'm going to live a long, full life in spite of these diagnoses. I know that with cancer, that's not always an option for people. This disease is wildly unpredictable and it's brutal at times. There are people who have had lesser diagnoses that have had worse outcomes, or people who have had horrific diagnoses that end the way they kind of were projected. And because everyone's mileage varies, I know that some of these things might not be applicable or people might disagree with them. I always want to point out that I'm making these videos to give you a viewpoint on what it's like to live in the in-between, to kind of go through with a tough diagnosis, but then have good moments that still include these kind of intrusive thoughts that I'm going to talk about. So, preamble out of the way, why do I have anxiety during remission? Well, to begin with, I want to say that it's not anxiety about cancer returning. That exists, but it's in its own other compartment. The anxiety that I'm dealing with right now, I think it is kind of a combination of, it's like there's this mania surrounding remission where you say, holy shit, I have a new lease on life. But then you want to apply your energy harder than you ever had before because, when your life is threatened and then you seemingly get it back, you think you should be like doing more or trying harder. And I don't think that's even realistic. One, when you go through a cancer diagnosis, treatment, and the recovery process, you need to rest. You need to take things at a pace that might be slower than your life in the past, but it doesn't feel like that on a day-to-day basis. I get up and I go, why am I not doing more for cancer patient advocacy? Why am I not doing more to create content? Why am I not growing my business? Why am I not, reaching out to the people I couldn't see for the last few months? And it creates this kind of circular anxiety that gets me worked up, and as a result, I had to kind of take a break from all these things for a little bit. And even though the variables might be different in your life or someone else's life, even if it's not a cancer diagnosis you're going through, even if it's some break in your daily routine that puts you in a weird spot for a long period of time, and then you finally get back to the time period in which you think, hey, I have my life back, I can address all these things, it might not be in your best interest to just rush into them or try and overexert yourself, because inevitably you're going to burn out and you're going to find yourself where I was a month ago going, why am I so worked up about a situation that is awesome? I just beat cancer for the second time. I should be productive every single day. When in reality, I needed to rest, I needed to recover, and that's where I find myself now, is addressing my life post a few weeks of just chilling. So part of learning or growing any skill set is overcorrecting. And I think, as I alluded to learning how to deal with anxiety, I'm also overcorrecting, and it's causing me to have ambivalence in my remission. That's not to say that I shouldn't be addressing anxiety the way I am. In fact, when I'm telling myself it's okay to chill, that's a healthy response. I need that as a reaction to the coping mechanism of being anxious. But I also do want to accomplish things. I have a lot of ambitions, and I want to lead a life that is worth living post-cancer. The part I don't like, the ambivalence portion that's not healthy to me, is when I get these intrusive thoughts that are like, what's the fucking point? You have stage 4 cancer, it's coming back at some time. Or like, another example is I'll be having discussions with my partner or my parents or my friends about the future, and I always manage to slip in some snide remark about cancer. They'll be like, oh, well, we're looking forward to buying a house, doing this in the future, going on vacation, whenever you're X age. And I'll say, yeah, if I get there. And it's such an unhealthy response, even though, I love making jokes, especially morbid ones, but that one is almost becoming like an autonomic reflex to planning or to future thoughts. And I don't like that. I catch myself and I say, why are you doing that? And that's the ambivalence portion. It's easy to write off plans, or it's easy to tell yourself it's okay not to achieve things in the day-to-day sense, when you can just point at cancer and say, look, scary monster, why do I need to be ambitious? So my ambivalence in that sense is unhealthy, and I think that just talking through it like this is healthy for me to overcome, because when you really break it down, I have every reason to be excited, and I have very few reasons to be ambivalent, but I don't want either the anxiety or the ambivalence to replace rest or healthy energy. I need to find a true balance. The third thing I'm going to talk about today that's been troubling me during remission is how muted or unimportant other elements of life seem in relation to cancer and its recovery. Now, don't get me wrong, that's pretty much my sole focus for the last couple months in remission, but I have to make it out of here, right? I've alluded to living life in a well-rounded way post-cancer if I can. That's the ultimate goal. And so when I'm confronted with decisions or inflection points at work or relationship elements with my friends, family, partner, whatever, and I just go, that's not dealing with cancer. How important can this really be? That becomes another debilitating cycle. And I understand that I'm probably a little bit mentally fatigued from dealing with cancer. And yeah, in the scheme of things, you have to focus on a life-threatening illness more than anything else. But if your goal is to regain some sense of normalcy and to not have this consistent cancer cloud hanging over, I talked about my automatic response being bringing up cancer when people talk about long-term plans. If I want that to go away, then I have to find significance in things that used to hold it in my life, because life without meaning is not worth living necessarily. And again, that's a pretty fortunate statement to say, but I think in order to truly enjoy life to the fullest, you want things to have meaning. You want to have aspirational goals, and I want them to include cancer advocacy and include being a cancer patient who can help create content and help other people, but I don't want to limit it to just that. I want to be able to have, physical fitness goals or goals with my friends and family for things that we're going to do that are fun. I want to be able to set, trivial goals while I play the piano and say, hey, that meant a lot to me, and not have it be compared to dealing with cancer, because the worst thing that ever happened to you is the worst thing that ever happened to you, but everything else doesn't have to measure up. And I'm smiling as I say that I'm struggling with that right now, because even making this video is helping me. I really mean it. Every time I say that these videos help my mental health, it's true. Making videos or creating content or dealing with patient advocacy is a skill in and of itself. And I've taken a month off and I'm rusty. And so in my mind right now, I'm saying, hey, this wasn't your best work, but like, you know, it feels really good to get back into it. And I think that it's reinforcing the need for me to continue to do this. If you've made it this far, I truly appreciate it. I always do the cheesy thing where I ask you to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I would really appreciate that. I've continued to grow the channel even in this last month while I've been a little bit absentee from it, but I'm going to recommit to making videos on a consistent basis. So, like I said, you know, you gotta overcorrect while you learn skills, and I think that taking that time off was healthy for me, but I'm really, really excited to continue doing this for the future, and that's all I have for now. So I'm going to sign off, but I'll be back with you shortly, and thank you for watching. Bye!